So I'm doing the primary sketch. Basically, the sketch when I do for watercolor, there could be many lines, many details, but it is basically dividing the rectangle. So division of space is most important rather than drawing every specific object. Uh, so by division, I mean the main shapes in the painting, like there is a building on the right hand side. So all these bigger shapes are all falling in. So once the bigger shapes are in place, wherever in the rectangle, in the division of space, everything falls in place. Like smaller windows, people, umbrellas, boats, or whatever you want to do, that will fall in shape or that will fall in place, whatever you want to call it. So now little tiny stuff. So basically this also during the sketch, from a technical point of view, division of space and doing whatever drawing, but the mind generally races ahead in the process of actual painting, and that is a very funny, I would say, enjoyable experience. The mind has already started painting the picture. So if you notice, most of the bigger shapes are like closed polygons. So you have a fair guideline. So setting up the palette is like chrome yellow. I mean, it's a Hansa yellow deep since I'm using Daniel Smith. A little burnt sienna here. Manganese blue, a little Hansa yellow light along with that. Ultramarine blue and pyrrole scarlet initially, and some more manganese blue. So this I'm starting with the basic pyrrole scarlet with a touch of yellow. So it's kind of looking orangish. Letting the paint flow within a rectangle. Then a touch of yellow for those umbrellas and stuff. And the same spiral scarlet diluted continues. Then a touch of blue mixing with the yellow orange thing, and leaving the boats around, I'm painting almost everything connected. And this is a little touch of fresh blue because of the boat, top of the boat. And this is bit of orange on the top of the boat, bit of more reddish touches. Slightly more crimsonish touch added now. So the right hand side is mostly shadow, so I'm kind of putting a little violet touch, but basically it's a desaturated, and the cobalt blue for the sky. Here it comes with a little touch of greenish tinge added. So basically the mountains behind are pretty much greenish. The more important thing in watercolor is many times I've seen a lot of leisure painters or amateurs, I would say, they try to match a very specific color when they are looking at something and trying to paint from that. This phenomenon doesn't work in watercolor because every paint with a diluted or mixed with water and also getting blended with another paint, uh, the artist even doesn't know what exact color he is using. See, if you look at my palette, a lot of colors are getting mixed with each other. So, what is the exact hue? I'm not concerned, but I'm very concerned with the temperature of the color. So, whether it's orange, red, brown, or it's blue, green, or gray. So, transition between the temperatures is very important. Hmm. During the daytime, if you're painting, when we go for plein air many a times, daytime in the sense I'm talking about not early morning nor the late evening, dusk time, the most of the daytime. Daytime, you will see a lot of transition of warm and cool colors, like the sunlit area might be warm, shadows might be cool, or there can be a reflected light which is very warm on certain things. Like if you look at the central house, there's a warm reflected light which I'm trying to show, while the shadow on the left has more cooler effect. Ah. Many times on the shadows, the surrounding gets reflected, which is warm, and also the sky part gets reflected. Sky in the sense the reflected, some of the light rays which are reflected from the atmosphere, they will produce some kind of a cool light which is seen on the rooftop. So rooftop is more cooler than the vertical wall. So what I mean to say is a constant transition between warm and cool plays a crucial role. Now doing these windows is sometimes a little boring, but I mean one has to enjoy that part also. Like too many windows get boring sometimes. But they need not be like architecturally exact size. You are not doing the architectural illustration here. Some dark accents coming behind the umbrellas and little tiny dots on the roof. So basically, once your shapes are in place, washes are in place, the major tones are in place, then what you do is called as a brushwork, which is more of a your drawing skill reflected, or I would say observation skill and drawing skill. I'm using brush, but this is basically a detailed observation and the drawing skill which I have developed over the, of course, years. So a process can be defined as like drawing a bigger shapes, covering the major tones, and then superimposing the brushwork on that, and that's all. That's almost the entire process broken in 3 parts. Obviously, I'll be glazing some more darker washes, but most of the stuff is completed when the washes are glazed, middle tone washes, and superimposed by brushwork. So, if you have noticed, I never work on a particular part of a painting. I will just go on the entire surface all the time. moving from bigger shapes to smaller shapes, and trying to balance the tones. So ultimately, painting is not about depicting something or copying a photograph or copying a reality if you're doing a plein air. Painting is about creating our own aesthetic, pleasurable aesthetic. Uh, the reference, obviously, the reference is there, but that is incidental, I would say. Basically, it's a composition in a rectangle, so balancing the tones, balancing the darker shapes, and creating a visual interest is the ultimately purpose. But rather than purpose, I would say is the objective. Yeah. Sometimes detailing is very interesting. I mean, a lot of artists I have been talking to, they like to do a lot of details. There are obviously some artists who like to keep it simple and bold, but detailing has its own charm. But detailing only means when your bigger shapes are already uh, molding the basic composition. Then whether you do details or you don't do details doesn't matter much. But detailing is like adding spice and, yeah, I would say spice or chili flakes or oregano on your pizza, something like that. Some strong accent of the blue boat coming up. So just to separate the building from the background and creating more depth, I've just added some water and then adding little more trees to create the textural effect, that blue on the top portion and more of a brownish green on the bottom side. And little tiny dots. But the whole background is done in wet so as not to get any focused attention, but to create a textural backdrop for the architectural foreground, not foreground, middle ground, I would say. So I think that the effect of light and shadow, um, which is kind of, I would say, the main subject of this painting. The subject is never, I mean, I don't like to call my subject as it's a Vernazza, obviously, uh, Cinque Terre, but the subject is light and shadow. Subject is not the place, nor the building, nor the boats, nor any objective. And yeah, for me, I'm just saying, when I approach a painting, the subject is light and shadow, or subject is a play of light, or um, or the aesthetics between the shapes or the texture. So, what I mean to say is, when you paint, every painting practically for an artist is a kind of abstract expression or a design. So, design, when you talk about a design, you don't talk about the objects. It's a non objective thing that I like to call it as a subject of painting. Now, what it looks like is up to viewer to decide. Then he will say it's a building, he will say it's a Vernazza, he will say it's a whatever he wants to say. And the rigor is like a very interesting tool. Like rigor is a small brush with longish hair, so you can do small tiny lines with a more amount of freedom in your brushwork. But I would also like to note here, like, this is like a torch in a monkey's hand. If you overdo it, you will burn the whole thing. if you know what I mean. So it has to be used with a very careful and loving, economic way. On these tiny figures with little mop. If you have noticed, I was painting those balconies, and then suddenly I came and painted some figures here. So what I'm trying to do is balance even those little tiny dark whatever, because they will catch a lot of attention. Trying to balance the darks, trying to connect the darks. Connect doesn't mean like every line and every shape has to be connected. There is a visual connect with even the dot which is separated from a line but connected with an invisible line. So lot of darks which gets connected will ultimately bind the painting together. So that plays a crucial role. Yeah, a little more darkest dark going over the detailing of the boat. The darkest dark in the painting are the ones which catch the attention. Here I come with little opaque white. Normally I use this gouache paint or whatever it may be. I don't know. It's gouache. It's a bleed proof white, mm, by PH Martin. It comes in very handy because you can use a liquid paint. Still, it looks fairly opaque. I'm not a one of those artists who will use masking fluid. Uh, the simple reason is I'm little lazy about it, and my drawing is not exact before I paint it. It's in a there is a lot of approximation that happens during the painting processes. So a lot of things gets defined as I paint. So for tiny details, it's good to use the opaque white. Now the part of reflection, I would say, uh, and defining the boats. So some dark accents, some leftover whites, and I'm I'm merely trying to suggest the boats, not define them. I mean, they are getting defined obviously, but I'm trying to keep the brushwork as suggestive as possible. some more manganese and so actually, if you ask me, detailing is a never-ending job. Okay, so trying to define the objects and do the detailing, the economy of the brushwork plays an important part. So doing detailing is something what I like to do, but it is something which I have to keep my own control on how much I would want to do it. And I think it's a little tie between yeah, there are virtues like simplicity and less is more, etc. Agreeing to all that, the painting should not be an understatement, neither it should be a overworked statement, which is a ideal state, which is impossible to, I mean, uh, to match the exact when you want to stop is not something which I am very comfortable with. But then I use little metaphors like a painting is never finished, it is abandoned at one place. So you just want to listen to tiny little voice in your head, as they say, about when to stop. But I'm more afraid of understatement than overwork. So in the initial stages of my artistic pursuit, I used to do a lot of minimal work and consider minimalism as the ultimate achievement. Uh, but I mean, at least today, I don't think so. It is definitely, but there is also, like, with lot of work, you can have a minimalistic, what you can say, impact. Not minimalistic, and the ultimate shapes that come out of the lot of work, deliberate work, can be uh, kind of minimal, giving the maximum impact. Oh, I'm a little confusing you here, but if you understand what I'm trying to say. Now, this is I'm trying to bind the painting and kind of divert the viewer's attention into the center. So, these little darks uh, pulling the viewer's eye more and more towards the center, maybe you can call it. And I think it's almost, but not quite finished yet. So I'll just go on. Some added darks and details on the left hand side. So that's almost the end of the show until I finally want to I don't know. I'm not yet ready to sign off. The word I like the word sign off when you sign the painting. I mean, that's the last mark on the painting when you shut down your process. but many a times I don't do so. Even after I sign, I sometimes go back and paint little bit here, little bit there, tiny dot here. So I'm just checking if there are enough edges in the painting, um, sharp lines against a blur lines, like lost and found, lost and found. So, and tiny lines, of course. So, usually, if there is somebody else in the room when I'm painting, I would ask that person to guide me when to stop. Most of the cases, there is somebody in the room, but sometimes there isn't. So I have to play a double role of one of a painter and one of a observer. Yeah, that sounds nice. Actually, a painter and observer, it's like having a dream. So when you're dreaming, you're the person who is creating a dream as well as experiencing a dream. So a similar experience you have it when you're painting. You're creating a painting and you're watching your own painting. So there are always two me. TWO2 me's. Yeah, I guess now it's almost time to say it's time to say goodbye. All right, guys. The greed is a never ending phenomena of these rigor tiny dots. But I hope goodbye, guys. Okay. Thank you.